If you only know HYBE from BTS, LE SSERAFIM, New Jeans, or Islet, you might be surprised to learn that long before any of those groups existed, HYBE, which was called Big Hit Entertainment back then, actually had a girl group. The name of the group was Glam. Before there was BTS, there was Glam. Back in 2012, Big Hit Entertainment at this point was not the entertainment giant we know today. It was a small company founded in 2005 by Bang Shi-hyuk, aka Hitman Bang. The company had signed a couple of artists here and there. They had a vocal group called 8. They had a co-management deal with HYBE Entertainment to handle the boy group 2AM, but they were struggling. In the K-pop world, the big three at the time were SM Entertainment, YG Entertainment, and HYBE Entertainment. Big Hit was nowhere near that level. They were basically a small business trying to survive in a very competitive industry. Bang Shi-hyuk had already started building what would eventually become BTS. RM had been signed. Other members were being recruited, but BTS would not debut until June 2013. So in 2012, Big Hit needed something happening, and that something was Glam. Glam was not entirely a Big Hit project. It was a joint effort between Big Hit and another label called Source Music. Now, if that name sounds familiar in the HYBE world, it should. Source Music is the same company that would later become home to G-Friend, and after HYBE acquired it in 2019, LE SSERAFIM. But back in 2012, Source Music was an independent label, and the two companies had been working on this girl group together for about 3 years. That is a long time to prepare a group, and it tells you that this was not some quick side project. They genuinely wanted Glam to work. The name itself stood for something. Glam was an acronym for Girls Be Ambitious. It was also, as many pointed out, a nod to the word glamour. The group originally had 5 members: Jiyeon, who served as the leader, Zinni, Trinity, Dahi, and Miso. On July 16, 2012, Glam officially dropped their debut single, Party XXO. It starts. They had a reality program on SBS MTV that shared the same name as the group, giving fans a look behind the scenes. Bang Shi-hyuk himself was deeply involved in producing their music. There was also a very interesting pre-debut connection that not many people talk about. Member Dahi had actually provided the vocals for a virtual singer, a Vocaloid product called CU back in 2011. Some of the trainees who would later become BTS members, specifically Jimin, Jungkook, J-Hope, and Suga, once performed as backup dancers for Glam. Later in 2012, they contributed a ballad called The Person I Miss to the soundtrack of a Korean drama called 5 Fingers. It showed they could do more than just hip-hop. The first crack in Glam's foundation appeared at the end of 2012, and it was a strange one. On December 24th of that year, Big Hit and Source Music announced that member Trinity was leaving the group. The official reason was personal circumstances. That is the kind of vague statement entertainment companies release when they do not want to explain what actually happened. The rumor that spread quickly online, and this was never confirmed, was that Trinity had reportedly been a Saseng fan of Super Junior member Lee Tuk before she became an idol herself. A Saseng fan is a term used in Korean entertainment for an obsessive fan who crosses major personal boundaries. The rumor said she had continued some of that behavior even after joining the industry. Again, nobody confirmed this, and Trinity never publicly addressed it. What is clear is that Trinity's departure left the group at 4 members heading into 2013, and it set a tone of instability that would follow Glam throughout their short career. In a world where girl groups are selling a complete image, a lineup change that early without a clear explanation is very confusing. Despite the rocky end to 2012, Glam came back in 2013 and arguably had their strongest period. In January, they released I Like That, a track that sampled a 1990s Korean dance song and blended it with hip-hop and rhythm and blues influences. It performed better on the charts than their debut, hitting number 57 on Gaon and number 54 on the Billboard K-pop Hot 100. The Billboard chart placement was significant for a small label group. I Like That was produced by Bang Si-hyuk himself, along with producers P-Dog and, interestingly, BTS's own RM, who contributed to the track. Then, in March, they came back again with In Front of the Mirror, which was one of the most unexpected things a girl group could release at the time. The song blended European pop, trot, which is traditional Korean music style, and hip-hop, all into one track. Trot was not exactly what the cool progressive girl group crowd was playing with in 2013, but Glam did it anyway, and the song peaked at number 37 on Gaon, the highest charting single ever. By any reasonable measure, 2013 was a year where Glam was building something real. They were not a top-tier group yet, but they were developing a unique identity, making interesting music, and growing their fan base. There was a path forward. But here is something important that often gets glossed over when people talk about the Glam story. Even during their good period, Glam was not getting the promotional support a group needs to truly break through. Big Hit's attention in 2013 was almost entirely focused on BTS, who debuted in June of that year and immediately demanded enormous investment in time, energy, and resources. Source Music on their end was starting to develop what would later become G-Friend. So Glam was essentially caught in the middle of two companies whose priorities were shifting away from them. After In Front of the Mirror in March 2013, there was a long silence. Almost a full year went by before their next release. Back then in the K-pop world, that kind of inactivity is damaging. Fans move on. New groups debut every month. If you are not visible, you are forgotten. When they finally returned in February 2014 with a digital single called Give It To You, marketed as a Valentine's Day gift for fans, it felt like a small gesture rather than a genuine comeback push. There was no big promotional campaign behind it. No major music show appearances. There is also a broader context worth mentioning here. Glam's concept, the hip-hop-influenced girl crush female empowerment angle, was not the mainstream formula at the time. In 2012 and 2013, the girl group market was rewarding groups who were either very cute and innocent or very sexy and polished. The space that Glam occupied was genuinely there, but it was ahead of where the mass audience was ready to go. It was basically ahead of their time. It would take groups like 21 inspiring a wave of successors before that kind of girl crush concept became commercially dominant. Glam, in a lot of ways, was early to a party that started properly years later. It does add texture to why breaking through was so difficult even when the group was doing things right. And then came September 2nd, 2014, the day that erased everything. One of South Korea's most famous and respected actors, Lee Byung-hyun, went to the police. He reported that two women were attempting to blackmail him. They had a video recorded secretly on a smartphone during a private gathering, where the three of them had been drinking together. The video captured him making lewd comments, the kind of comments that would look terrible for a married man and a major celebrity. Lee Byung-hyun had recently married actress Lee Min-jung, who was pregnant at the time and staying in the United States. The blackmailers were demanding 5 billion Korean won in exchange for keeping the video private. The two women were quickly identified. One was model Lee Ji-young. The other was Glam's own Dahi. The shock was huge. Lee Byung-hyun was not a minor figure. He was, and still is, one of the biggest actors in Korea, known internationally for his roles in Hollywood films like G.I. Joe and Terminator Genesis. For his name to be attached to a scandal like this was already a massive story. For a K-pop idol to be one of the accused blackmailers made it exponentially bigger. Big Hit Entertainment confirmed in a press release that Dahi was involved. They had no choice. She had been arrested. As the investigation unfolded, more details came out that painted a complicated picture. Lee Ji-yeon, the model, claimed she had been in a romantic relationship with Lee Byung-hyun and had been jilted by him, which was her motivation for the scheme. Dahi's situation was described differently. According to reports, Dahi had been in serious financial trouble. She reportedly owed her agency nearly 300 million won. When the blackmail opportunity presented itself, she joined in as a desperate measure to get out of debt. What also came out was genuinely uncomfortable for everyone involved. He was not exactly an innocent victim of random predatory behavior. He released a handwritten public apology to his wife, vaguely referencing his irresponsibility as a husband. His commercial endorsements were pulled one after another. Petitions circulated online demanding brands drop him. Netizens, Koreans' active online communities, started calling him by the nickname Lee Santa after discovering what appeared to be evidence of him showering the model with expensive gifts. The legal outcome came on January 15, 2015. The Seoul District Court sentenced model Lee Ji-young to 1 year and 2 months in prison, and Dahi to 1 year in prison. Both women were found guilty. The court acknowledged that Lee Byung-hyun's own behavior at the gathering had been inappropriate, but still found that secretly recording someone and then using that recording to extort money was a serious crime. Dahi later appealed her sentence, and the court reduced it to 1 year in prison with 2 years of probation. Lee Byung-hyun himself reportedly requested the court not to be too harsh with Dahi, which is why she did not end up serving full jail time. The same day the sentences were announced, January 15, 2015, Big Hit Entertainment confirmed that Glam had officially disbanded. The remaining members had terminated their contracts. The statement was brief. The members will each walk their own paths. Just like that, it was over. The fallout from the Glam situation had consequences that lasted for years inside what would eventually become HYBE. After the group disbanded, Big Hit Entertainment made a decision that the K-pop world took notice of. They stopped accepting female trainees entirely. All the female trainees they did have at the time were transferred over to Source Music. 2 of those transferred trainees were Sinbi and Yoonha, who went on to become members of G-Friend. For years, Big Hit was a male-only company, at least in terms of who they were developing as artists. BTS was thriving globally. TXT debuted in 2019, but there were no girl groups in sight under the Big Hit label specifically. Many fans and the industry observers pointed directly at the Glam experience as the reason for that hesitation. It was not until June 2020, 6 full years after Glam disbanded, that HYBE, now operating under that name after rebranding in 2021, announced it was opening auditions to female trainees for the first time since Glam's implosion. That announcement alone made headlines because it signaled a meaningful shift. By that point, HYBE had acquired Source Music and Pledis Entertainment, which gave them management over G-Friend and girl group Formis 9, but those were groups that came with the acquisitions. They had not built a girl group from the ground up since Glam. LE SSERAFIM debuted under Source Music in May 2022 and immediately became one of the most talked about girl groups debuts in years. So where are they now? Dahi, whose real name is Kim Dahi, and who later changed her name to Kim Si-won, has had the most publicly visible post-Glam life, which is both strange and telling. After the legal proceedings wrapped up, she invented herself as a BJ, which is the Korean term for a streamer or broadcast jockey on Africa TV. She built a significant following there and at her peak was reportedly earning the equivalent of close to $200,000 a month from her streaming activities. In late 2024, she launched a YouTube channel, making her public return in a video discussing personal challenges and her journey with a longtime friend. As of the latest reports, she appears to be active and building new audiences online. Jiyeon, the group's leader, has continued in the entertainment industry under the name HYBE. She works as a solo artist and has maintained a low profile. Trinity, the member who left early, is now a freelance model. Zinni became a skateboarder and model. Miso used to be a YouTuber before leaving her social media inactive since 2017. Nothing is known about her whereabouts.